Adolescent medicine. Identify and describe the sequence of physical changes of puberty in both males and females. You'd need to go look at the pictures. I think it would also be really important to know what the first change is in females and the first changes in males, so breast development in females, testicular development in males, and also where the growth spurt happens in relation to the other signs of puberty, because parents are going to ask you that kind of stuff. Okay, when's he going to start growing? When's he going to stop growing? They're going to want to know those kinds of things. When is it okay for them to lift weights? I get that question all the time. I would ask, you need to know where their Tanner staging is to know when they can lift weights, but you want their growth plates closed before they can lift weights. So Tanner stage 5, ideally, before they can lift weights. Let's see. So you also need to just review the images of pubertal stages, pubic hair, breast development, testicular development. Just Google it, pull up the images and review those. Describe the common risk-taking behaviors of adolescents, such as alcohol and other drug use. Yes, their frontal lobes are not myelinated. They can't make rational decisions, so parents need to take the opportunities away. Sexual activity, violence, and the consequences of these actions. I mean, we've talked about the risk-taking behaviors, the stressors, your lifetime stressors, and your ACE scores. We want to minimize those lifetime stressors. We want to keep kids out of risk-taking situations. We know they're still going to get in them, even though we're good parents, and we try really hard to keep them out of these situations. But it's important to try to minimize the opportunities that they have to participate in these situations, so that we can keep those ACE scores and stressors low. They take risks. Their frontal lobes aren't myelinated, and even adults whose frontal lobes are myelinated take risk. But we have to educate them as best we can, and try to get them through the years until their brains are fully developed and they can make their own decisions. Describe the common mental health problems in adolescents. Depression and anxiety are incredibly common. 20%, 1 in 5. I see this every single day. It's probably more common than I even see, and I ask everyone at well child checkups, depression, anxiety screening. Suicide is incredibly common, particularly in those with alternate lifestyle or gender identity preferences. So we need to be asking those questions, and we need to be supportive, and we need to be providing resources for these kids. School failure. I always ask school performance at well child checkup and provide resources, making sure we're not missing learning disabilities like dyslexia, attention deficit disorder, body image and eating disorders. Those athletes that are taking those supplements, we need to make sure we're talking to them about that. And again, depression and suicide, really important to screen for. Make sure that we're getting them appropriate care. If we don't ask the questions, we don't know they're there. Sometimes we ask the questions and we still don't know they're there, but it's really important to be asking those questions. Know how to interview an adolescent using the HEADS method. So home environment, education, activity, as in like what do you do for fun, sports, that kind of stuff. Drug use, sexuality, and suicidality are how I've always gone by the heads. I've also heard some people say D for depression, sexuality, and substance. I don't care as long as you get all those things in there. It doesn't matter. But that is a good way to make sure you're covering all your bases. I mean, teenagers experience child abuse just like other kids do, so it is important that we're asking those questions. But that's a great method to make sure you're taking a thorough history on an adolescent. Components of the pre-participation sports exam. You want to make sure all their bones and joints are working properly. Importantly, you want to make sure that you're getting a good cardiac family history. Those sudden cardiac deaths on the field. Sometimes there's a family history of those. My uncle was 35. He was driving alone in the middle of the day and fell asleep and crashed his car. That's suspicious. That kid needs a workup for cardiomyopathy. 35-year-old shouldn't fall asleep in the middle of the day driving on the road. My cousin drowned. He was a great Olympic swimmer and he drowned. Okay, that's suspicious. We need to look into that. Making sure that we evaluate and rule out any sudden cardiac death, the subaortic stenosis, the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the Wolff-Parkinson-White, the dysrhythmias, those things need to be fully evaluated. Concussions, we've got to make sure we're screening. Have you had a previous concussion? Have you had a previous head injury? Making sure that we're asking those questions and screening for those things is really important as well. All right, I believe that's all for adolescent.